Chapter 80, Speed of Life and Death 2. Our reflexes lesson is to train you in the speed of your reflexes. Under normal circumstances, a person's reaction speed could reach 100 milliseconds or even lower through extreme training. However, the difficulty was too great. Furthermore, the ability could not be used in general. In this genetic era, elixirs could greatly reduce the time it took to train our reflexes. The target of our reflexes lesson is 10 milliseconds. If your reflexes do not reach 10 milliseconds a year later, your personal rating would drop by a grade. Wuxia's eyes flickered. A year later, if an individual's reflexes were less than 10 milliseconds, their rating would drop by a grade. Out of all of the classes, this was the only one that the students would be demoted if the student did not meet the requirements. The school must have made such a rule to emphasize the importance of a person's reflexes. This matter concerned life and death. The school had already set the rules to this extent. If he did not take them seriously, he could only say that he had holes in his brain. Before we are administered with the nerve acceleration elixir, we would first test out a student's fundamental reflexes and make a record of it so that we can compare it with what we get after the training. Do you see the hole in the matrix laser above your heads? In a while, this matrix laser will shoot out high-frequency sensory lasers, mainly aimed at your heads, including your eyes. It will not cause you any harm, but it will be recorded the moment it hits your skin or eyes. Then upload it to the school's super data center and calculate the speed of your reflexes, which will then feed it back to you. What you need to do is to try your best to dodge these high-frequency sensory lasers. It doesn't matter if you get hit. Just try your best to avoid them. Let me teach you a little trick. Every high-frequency sensory laser had a fixed target. The moment it appeared, the body part that was targeted would experience a slight sensation of weakness. For example, he would have hit the target if you were hit in the area of the forehead. If you managed to avoid being hit in the forehead area and get hit in the ear, that would be you dodging the bullet. It would not be a failure. It's just that your body's speed cannot match up to your reflexes. There will be improvements in the future. Do you all understand? Professor Luo said. Get ready. Wuxia immediately became focused. The next instant, he felt an itch at the tip of his nose. A laser beam shot toward him. Wuxia did not have the time to react when the tip of his nose felt warm. He was hit. Then, high-frequency sensory lasers continued to rain down on him. Wuxia tried his best to avoid them. He even activated his mental senses. However, it was useless. He sensed where it was going to land, but he could not avoid it. His reflexes were not fast enough. He could dodge it by turning his head slightly, but he could not do it. Wuxia could not help but be shocked. Wouldn't he instantly become a sieve if he came into contact with the cluster of laser weapons? Then, he would become a medium rare meat. The testing stopped 3 minutes later. Wuxia felt that he had only dodged 20% of the laser bullets. He even instinctively tilted his head to the side to avoid most of them. In simpler terms, he had been lucky. He did not dodge the bullet with his reflexes. There was a small electronic screen in front of everyone's cubicle. It immediately displayed everyone's reaction speed. Wuxia's reaction speed was 180 milliseconds, 0.18 seconds. The same went for the rest of the students. Only a few students from the extreme branch had a reaction speed of 130 milliseconds. Most of the students had a reaction speed of 150 to 250. There were not many students who scored above 200 milliseconds. The genetic liberation elixir enhanced a person's fundamental qualities to a certain extent. Alright, the students now have a basic understanding of their reflexes. It can be said that with your current reaction speed, you would be able to be wiped out with a gun. Without further ado, we'll be distributing the genetic speed acceleration elixirs. Administer the elixir under your skin yourself. Your reflexes would be enhanced several times over for the next 3 hours after the injection. At this time, your reflexes would be the most effective during training. It would directly trigger a few genetic base points relating to the speed of your reflexes. Accumulated high-intensity training will allow you to activate genetic base points relating to your reaction speed. It will greatly enhance your reaction speed. Also, the peak time for the effects of the nerve acceleration elixir was 1.5 hours. It would start to weaken after that. It will decrease by 80% after 3 hours. The remaining 20% of the effects would be completely digested within 5 days. You can also continue to train your reflexes during these 5 days. As such, our reflex training course is held once a week. Please remember this, students. Also, there would be some side effects after being administered with the nerve acceleration elixir. The effects varied from person to person. For example, insomnia, anxiety, sensitivity, temper, irritability, decreased appetite, etc. However, the effects are not serious. Please try your best to overcome them, Professor Luo Shifeng explained. While he was speaking, an assistant had already brought several students and quickly distributed the nerve acceleration elixirs. It was a red disposable elixir. You guys got the nerve acceleration elixirs, right? Professor Luo suddenly laughed. In our class, we only have motivation if there is competition. Well, during these 3 hours, whichever one of you has a reaction speed of more than 50 milliseconds will have these 3 bottles of level E energy restoration elixirs. There will only be one prize. The person whose reaction speed has increased the most will take it. With a smile, Professor Luo Shifeng placed 3 bottles of level E energy restoration elixirs on the table. Many students turned their gazes toward the prize. They had been in the school for more than a month. They would be a coward if they did not know the importance of the level E energy restoration elixir. Only with this can they continue to train and improve themselves. Otherwise, they could only slowly eat and sleep to recover their energy after they expended all of it in an hour of extreme training. 3 bottles were enough to last many students 3 to 4 days. Zhu Tui's gaze was also very fervent. 3 bottles of level E energy restoration elixirs were a substantial amount. However, would he be able to increase his reaction speed by 50 milliseconds or even more within 3 hours? Professor Luo Shifeng was very happy when he saw the reactions of the 1,000-odd students. This was a method that he liked to use. He would give a reward that would tempt any student. Then, they would set a goal that the students thought they could achieve but could not. Finally, Professor Luo became elated when he saw how his students could not get the reward no matter how hard they tried. As a teacher, it was very boring to have to repeat the contents of an entire lesson. It was like eating the same bowl of noodles every day. You would get tired of it no matter how delicious it was. It also meant that behind every goddess, there was a man who slept with her until he vomited. 1. Of course, that was Professor Luo Shifeng's theory. It was one of the few things that Professor Luo Shifeng enjoyed when he was constantly teaching reflexes classes.